Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to a place that is, well, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really is.
We're stepping into the dark, the shivering cold of a winter night in rural India, and we're going to witness a story that doesn't just tug at your heartstrings, it kind of rips them out.
Completely. It's a brutal narrative.
Right. We're unpacking a piece of literature that is widely considered a masterpiece of Hindi fiction. But I have to warn you, right up front, this is not a bedtime story.
Definitely not.
It's gritty, it's visceral, and it challenges the very definition of, what it means to be a human being. We're talking about Munshi Premchand's Kafan, or in English, The Shroud.
It's one of those stories that just stays with you. It's like a splinter in the mind, really.
A splinter, yeah.
You read it and you just can't quite get comfortable again because it strips away all the romanticism we usually attach to poverty or to grief and especially to family.
Right, the noble poor trope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It forces you to look at the raw, ugly survival instinct that kicks in when you have absolutely nothing left but your own hunger.
It's intense. Picture this for a second. It is pitch black. A bone-chilling wind is blowing. We are outside a tiny, mud-walled hut.
A really fragile structure.
Right. Two men, a father and a son, are sitting by a dying bonfire. And inside that hut, a young woman is screaming in the agony of childbirth.
Thrashing around in pain.
She is dying. And the two men outside, they are more concerned with peeling roasted potatoes than the life fading away just a few feet from them.
It creates such a jarring, almost horrific image right from the start.
Yeah.
Just the juxtaposition of the screams inside and the silence outside.
It sets the tone immediately. But before we descend fully into that darkness, I have a very specific mission for you, the listener, today.
Because this isn't just a casual chat.
Exactly. This is a comprehensive narration and analysis, and is brought to you by the Simplified Summary YouTube channel.
We are going incredibly deep today.
So if you are listening to this right now, I want you to pause for just 1 second. Go to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and share this video.
It really helps out.
It does. If you have friends who love literature, or maybe you're a student who needs to understand these complex texts without, slogging through 100 pages of academic critique, Simplified Summary is exactly the place for you.
A fantastic resource.
We are going to narrate the full story today, skipping absolutely nothing, and we're going to analyze every single beat.
And context is absolutely key here before we start the narrative.
Yeah.
We really need to understand who Munshi Premchand was when he wrote this.
Set the stage for us.
So he wrote Kafan in 1936.
That date is significant, right?
It's massively significant. This was the very end of his career, and frankly, the end of his life. He passed away later that exact same year.
Wow.
Yeah. If you look at his earlier work, there was often this strong sense of idealism. He was heavily influenced by Gandhi.
The idea of the noble village.
Right. There was this belief that the village could be reformed, that the heart of the greedy landlord could change, that the poor could find dignity through righteousness and hard work. But Kafan is entirely different.
It feels almost cynical in comparison to his old stuff.
It is stark realism. It's almost a total rejection of that earlier idealism. He peels back the layers to show what grinding generational destitution actually does to the human soul.
It doesn't make you holy.
Exactly. It doesn't always make people noble. Sometimes it strips away everything until only the animal instinct for survival remains.
So let's get into the text. Part 1, the hut and the potatoes. We are outside the hut with Ghisu, the father, and Madhav, the son. Premchand describes the silence of the village, and it's so immersive. He says the whole village is submerged in darkness.
And inside, Budhia, that's Madhav's wife, she is thrashing. The text actually says she is thrashing so hard that the walls of the hut seem to shake.
Just imagine the fragility of that structure.
A mud hut, literally shaking from the physical pain of the woman inside. Her screams are heart-wrenching. But outside, by the fire, it is dead quiet.
And Ghisu, the father, breaks that silence. He looks at his son and says, with almost zero emotion, it looks like she won't survive. She's been thrashing all day. Go inside and check on her.
And here is the very first shock for the reader. Madhav refuses.
He just straight up refuses. He says in this pained voice, if she's gonna die, why doesn't she just die quickly? What's the point of me going in to see?
That line is devastating. Why doesn't she just die quickly? It sounds monstrous to modern ears.
It sounds like he absolutely hates her.
It does, but we have to look closer at why he says this. Ghisu scolds him, right? He calls him heartless.
Yeah, he plays the moral card.
He says, you enjoyed a whole year of marriage with her, and now you're being so disloyal.
But Madhav has a counter-argument. He says, I can't bear to see her thrashing and flailing her hands and feet.
It's this strange mix of cowardice and squeamishness.
Yeah, he doesn't want to witness the suffering he knows he can't stop.
That's definitely part of it, the sheer helplessness. If he goes in, what can he realistically do? He has no medicine. He has no money for a doctor. He can literally only watch her die.
Which is terrifying.
And for a man who has avoided responsibility his entire life, facing that stark reality is terrifying. But there's a darker, much more immediate reason for his refusal.
The potatoes.
The potatoes. They're roasting potatoes in the ashes of that bonfire. And there is an unspoken, brutal tension here.
If Madhav goes inside the hut to check on his dying wife,
he leaves Ghisu alone with the potatoes.
And he doesn't trust his own father.
He genuinely fears that if he leaves, his father will eat his share of the food.
Wow, that is the level of scarcity we are talking about here. The hunger overrides the grief. The hunger completely overrides the love.
Exactly. To understand this behavior, we have to look at who these men are. Premchand gives us their backstory right here in the first section. They belong to the Chamar caste.
Right, which is a marginalized community, traditionally leather workers or manual laborers. But even within their own community, these two are infamous.
They are absolute legends of laziness. The text says Ghisu would work for 1 day and then rest for 3.
And Madhav.
He's arguably worse. He would work for an hour and then chill him his pipe for an hour.
So naturally, nobody in the village hires them. They are the absolute last resort for the farmers. If a farmer needs 2 men to do one man's work, only then do they call Ghisu and Madhav.
And because of this complete refusal to work, they live in absolute destitution. They have no possessions. Premchand lists it out. Just a few clay pots, their house is falling apart.
They cover their nakedness with tattered rags.
They are in debt to everyone. They get beaten, abused, insulted by the entire village.
But here is the paradox that Premchand highlights, and I think it's fascinating. Despite all this misery, they have no grief. They are strangely free.
Free from the worries that the hardworking peasants have.
Right.
This is a crucial bit of social commentary. Premchand points out that the peasants who work themselves to death also starve. They also live in crippling debt.
So Gisu's logic is, if I work, I starve. If I don't work, I starve. So why work?
It's a twisted kind of logic, isn't it?
Yeah. It's almost a rebellion against the economic system. If the game is rigged, the only winning move is to just not play.
Precisely. It's a strike, a labor strike of 2 people. They have opted out of the system of exploitation. They prefer peaceful idleness to hardworking starvation.
And into this extremely toxic dynamic enters Budhia, the woman dying inside.
The tragedy of Budhia, she entered this house just last year, and Premchand says she brought civilization to these 2 savages.
She ground grain, she cut grass.
She managed to scrounge up food to feed these 2 shameless men.
And her hard work had a terrible side effect. It made them even lazier.
Because her belly was full of fire to feed them, they became arrogant. If someone asked them to work, they'd demand double wages because they knew Budhia would provide if they refused.
She basically became the enabler of their sloth. And now that source of order, that source of food is dying. And they are essentially waiting for her to die so they can sleep in peace.
It's chilling. They view her death not as a loss of a human person, but as the breaking of a tool that fed them.
It's utilitarianism at its absolute darkest. Now, let's go back to those potatoes. They pulled them out of the hot ashes. They are ravenous. They haven't eaten since yesterday.
Premchand describes them eating the potatoes while they are still burning hot.
The sensory detail here is incredible. He writes that the outside of the potato is cool, but when they bite into it, the inside is like a ball of fire.
It burns their tongue, their throat, their palate.
But they don't spit it out.
No, because if they spit it out, it cools down and they lose the heat, or maybe they just can't wait. They swallow it quickly to get it into their stomach where it can cool down. Tears are streaming down their faces from the pain and the heat.
It's such a primal image. They are crying not for the dying woman inside, but because the potatoes are physically burning their mouths.
And in this moment of eating, Gisu's mind wanders. Food triggers a memory of the greatest meal of his entire life.
The Thakker's wedding. This flashback is essential to the story. It happened 20 years ago. 20 years. And he still remembers every single bite.
Think about that for a second. Time for Ghisu isn't measured in years or milestones. It's measured in hunger. That one day, 20 years ago, is the absolute only anchor he has to the feeling of being full.
Let's look at the menu he describes. He tells Madhav about the feast. He says the bride's family fed everyone, young, old, everyone. And it wasn't just plain bread. It was purest, made with real ghee.
Real ghee. That is a marker of absolute luxury for a landless laborer. It's pure fat, pure energy.
He lists it all out. Chutney, raita, 3 types of dry leafy greens, a rich curry, yogurt, sweets. He says, what can I tell you about the taste? There was no limit. You could ask for anything.
And the service. He describes how the servers would come around with hot, round, fragrant kachoris and just drop them onto the plates even when people said no, no.
That idea of abundance, where supply exceeds demand, is the exact polar opposite of his current reality.
Ghisu says he ate until he couldn't even drink water. He just rolled over on his blanket and went to sleep. He calls the Thakur Darya Idol generous like a river.
And Madhav is listening to this like a child listening to a fairy tale. He's so envious. He says, I wish someone would feed us like that now.
And Ghisu snaps him right back to reality. Who would feed us now? Those days are gone. Now everyone wants to save money on weddings. They loot the poor. But when it comes to spending, they talk about economy.
Then they actually get competitive about it. Ghisu claims he ate more than 20 puris. Madhav, puffing up his chest, says, I would have eaten 50.
50 puris. It really highlights the starvation they live in. 50 puris is an absurd amount, but it reflects the scale of his hunger.
It's the braggadocio of the powerless.
He's asserting his capacity as a man to consume, even if he has absolutely nothing to consume.
So they finish the potatoes, they drink some water, and then this is the end of part 1. They cover themselves with their dhotis and curl up like pythons by the fire to sleep.
Like pythons, cold-blooded, digesting.
And all the while, Budhia is still moaning inside. They fall asleep to the sound of her dying.
It's a brutal ending to the first section. It establishes their complete and total desensitization. The physical need for sleep and food overrides any emotional obligation to the family. They've become biological machines.
Which leads us directly into part 2, the death and the begging. Morning comes.
Madhav wakes up and finally goes into the hut. And, as expected, Budhia is dead.
Premchand doesn't shy away from the grim details here at all. Her body is cold. Flies are buzzing on her face. Her stony eyes are staring upward. And the baby.
The baby died in the womb.
It's a scene of absolute desolation. Dust covers her body. The life that brought civilization to their home is just gone.
And now begins the performance.
This is fascinating to me. Ghisu and Madhav see she is dead, and immediately they begin to beat their chests and cry loudly.
You call it a performance, and I think that's highly accurate. In a village setting, grief has a very strict ritual aspect. You are supposed to wail.
If you don't wail, the neighbors will judge you.
Exactly. So, despite ignoring her all night, they now perfectly perform the role of the grieving husband and father-in-law.
And it works. The neighbors come running. They offer the customary consolation. Oh, it's destiny. It's God's will. But now they face a very practical problem.
The funeral. In Hindu tradition, you need wood for the pyre, and you absolutely need a shroud, a kafan, to cover the body.
But they have nothing. Premchand writes, money was as scarce in their house as meat in a kite's nest.
A kite being a scavenger bird. It implies they have already picked the bones completely clean.
So where do they go? They go to the top of the hierarchy, the Zamindar, the landlord.
Now this relationship is fraught, to say the least. Zamindar hates them. He has beaten them personally with his own hands for theft and for not showing up to work.
So Ghisu knows he has to put on an act. He goes to the Zamindar's gate and throws himself on the ground. He puts his head in the dirt. He's crying real tears now, or maybe crocodile tears.
He says, Sarkar, I am ruined. Madhav's wife passed away. We sat by her all night. We spent everything on medicine, but she left us. Now who will handle her cremation if not you? I am your slave.
It's masterful manipulation. He plays the role of the helpless peasant perfectly. He appeals directly to the Zamindar's ego.
And it's Zamindar. Premchand lets us into the Zamindar's head for a moment. He is disgusted. He wants to say, get out of here, go rot. You never come when I call you to work, but now you come begging.
But he doesn't say that.
No, because it's a death. It's considered incredibly bad luck or bad form to turn away a funeral request.
Noblesse oblige, right? The obligation of the nobility.
Exactly. He is trapped by his own status. So, reluctantly, he pulls out 2 silver rupees and throws them at them.
Note the action there. He throws them. He doesn't hand them over. He doesn't say a word of consolation. He doesn't even look at them. He just wants them gone.
But for Ghisu, this is a massive victory. 2 rupees was a lot of money in the 1930s. And more importantly, it's a seed.
A seed.
Yes. Ghisu knows exactly how village psychology works. He goes around to the other villagers, the merchants, the traders, and he says, the Zamindar gave 2 rupees.
Ah, it's leverage. If the big boss gave, You small bosses can't refuse.
Right. It's peer pressure, social pressure.
Mhm.
The merchants can't look cheap compared to the Zamindar. So they give, some give grain, some give wood. Within an hour, Ghisu has collected a small fortune, 5 rupees.
5 rupees, that's huge for them. They could live on that for weeks.
It is. They have wood, they have grain. Now they just need the shroud.
So at noon, Ghisu and Madhav head to the market to buy the cloth. The other villagers start cutting bamboo for the bier to carry the body.
And this is where the story pivots dramatically. They are walking to the market, they have cash in their pockets, and the world starts to look a little different.
This brings us to part 3, the market, the wine, and the philosophy. This is where the story goes from tragic to, well, surreal.
They are wandering around the cloth market. They look at one shop, then another. They touch the silk, they touch the cotton, but they don't buy anything.
Ghisu starts the debate. He says, we should get a lighter shroud, meaning a cheaper one.
And Madhav agrees immediately. He says, yeah, it's going to be dark soon. By the time we get back and burn the body, it will be night. Who is going to see the quality of the cloth in the dark?
And then Ghisu says something that strikes at the very heart of the story's theme. He says, what a bad custom this is. Someone doesn't get a rag to cover their body while they are alive, but they need a brand new shroud when they die.
It's the central irony of the text. The living are naked, but the dead must be clothed. It's a massive waste of resources in the eyes of the starving. It highlights the absolute absurdity of religious and social rituals when survival is at stake.
Madhav adds, the shroud just burns with the body anyway. It doesn't go with her. If we had this 5 rupees earlier, maybe we could have bought her some medicine.
They're rationalizing. They are building a legal case against the shroud. They are walking, talking, and without explicitly saying, let's not buy it, their feet are leading them somewhere else entirely.
They end up right in front of the liquor house, the Madhushala.
Premchand writes that they entered according to a predetermined decision. It's like their subconscious decided miles ago. They stand there for a moment, hesitating, and then they go in.
And just like that, the funeral is forgotten. Ghisu steps up and buys a bottle of liquor. He buys some sesame snacks, some gajak. They sit on the veranda of the liquor shop and start drinking.
This is the turning point. As the alcohol hits their empty stomachs, their brains start to work differently. They feel powerful. They feel justified.
Ghisu asks, rhetorical now, what would we get by buying a shroud? It would just burn. It wouldn't touch her soul.
And Madhav looks up at the sky. He acts all innocent, appealing to the angels. He says it's just the world's custom. People give money to Brahmins expecting rewards in the afterlife. But we have nothing. We have nothing to burn.
But the guilt does creep in a bit. Madhav asks, but Dada, what answer will we give people? We have to go back to the village. They will ask, where's the shroud?
Ghisu just laughs. The liquor has made him bold. He says, we'll tell them the money slipped from my waistcloth. We searched and searched but couldn't find it.
He's planning the lie right there on the spot. And Madhav laughs too. He admires his father's quick wit. He feels like they have tricked fate. He says, she was such a good woman, poor Budhia. Even in death, she gave us a fine feast.
Think about that line for a second. Even in death, she gave us a fine feast. Her death is converted into currency, which is converted into liquor and food. She's feeding them one last time. It's morbid, but in their twisted logic, it's a final act of service.
And what a feast it is. They aren't satisfied with just snacks anymore. They order fried fish. They order spicy liver. They order meat curry. And they order puris. 2 seers of puris.
That's a massive, massive amount of food.
They spend 1.5 rupees just on the food. Premchand compares them to lions hunting prey in the jungle. They are eating with absolute ferocity. There is no fear of accountability, no worry about the disgrace waiting for them in the village. They have totally transcended worry.
They are reclaiming their place in the food chain. For an hour, they are not the prey, they're the lions. This is where Ghisu starts waxing philosophical. He says, our souls are pleased, we are happy. So won't she get the merit for this? Won't she get the punya?
It's a very convenient theology. If we, her loved ones, are satisfied, God must be satisfied. It's almost a parody of the Brahminical rituals where you feed a priest to feed an ancestor.
Exactly. Ghisu is casting himself as the priest. He is the holy vessel. He says, I have suffered more than any ascetic. If my soul is pleased, the heavens must open.
And Madhav bows his head like a true believer. He says, definitely, God knows our hearts. She will go to Vaikuntha, she will go to heaven. We are blessing her from the bottom of our hearts. We never had such food in our entire lives.
It's heartbreaking. The highlight of their lives is the funeral feast of their own wife and daughter-in-law.
But then a moment of doubt returns. Madhav looks at his father and asks, Dada, we will go there too one day, to death. If she asks us there, why didn't you give me a shroud, what will we say?
Ghisu gets angry. He snaps at him. Shut up. She will get a shroud.
Madhav is confused. Who will give it? You spent the money.
Ghisu says, the same people who gave money today will give again. But this time, they won't trust us with the cash. They will buy the cloth themselves.
He knows. He knows society better than anyone. He knows the villagers won't let a body sit rotting just to spite Ghisu. They will provide the shroud because their religion and their discomfort demands it. Ghisu has successfully offloaded the cost of the funeral onto society, keeping the cash for himself. It's a masterstroke of parasitic survival.
It really shows his dark intelligence. He understands the hypocrisy of the village perfectly. They care more about the dead body than they ever did about the living woman.
As the night goes on, the atmosphere in the liquor shop gets darker, more surreal, it gets crowded. Premchand describes the eyes of the other patrons. They are looking at Ghisu and Madhav with envy.
Why? Because they have a full bottle and a giant pile of food. In that moment, in that hierarchy of the desperate, Ghisu and Madhav are the kings. They are the lucky ones.
And then the beggar appears.
Yes. An old beggar is standing there, staring at their food with hungry eyes.
And this is a pivotal moment for Madhav. He has leftovers, puris, meat, and for the first time in his life, he is in a position to give. He hands the leftover puris to the beggar.
Premchand writes that Madhav felt a surge of pride, the glory of giving. He feels benevolent. For a moment, he is the Dakar. He is the generous lord.
Ghisu shouts at the beggar, take it, eat your fill and bless her. The one who earned this is dead, but her earnings are feeding you. Bless her with every pore of your body. This is hard-earned money.
Hard-earned money. The irony is so thick you could cut it. It was earned by Budhia's death and Gisu's begging. But in Gisu's mind, the work of begging and the work of grieving was real labor.
Madhav starts crying again. The emotions are swinging wildly now. Alcohol does that. He says, she will go to heaven, Dada. She will be the queen of heaven.
And Ghisu stands up, swaying, swimming in waves of joy. He delivers this incredible speech. He says, yes, she will go to heaven. She didn't torment anyone. She didn't oppress anyone. Even in dying, she fulfilled the greatest desire of our lives, this food. If she doesn't go to heaven, will these fat rich people go? The ones who loot the poor with both hands and then go wash away their sins in the Ganges.
It's a scathing critique of the hypocrisy of the upper classes. Ghisu is claiming absolute moral superiority. The rich steal and prey. Budhia suffered and gave.
And then the collapse. The mood shifts from philosophy to pure, unadulterated drunkenness.
They start singing a folk song. Thagni kian naini jamkave Thagni.
Why do you flash your eyes at me, O temptress, O cheat? The Thagni is a female cheat or temptress who are singing to the world, maybe to life itself.
Or maybe to Budhia.
Could be. Feeling abandoned by her death, you cheated us by dying.
And they start dancing, right in the liquor shop. They jump, they leap, they mimic emotions. Premchand says they make faces, they stumble. The whole liquor shop is watching this incredible spectacle.
It's a dance of death and life. It's grotesque and yet full of energy. It's a release. For a few hours, the alcohol allows them to escape their reality. They aren't shamars, they aren't untouchables, they aren't starving. They're just men, drunk and happy.
And finally, overcome by the intoxication, they just crash. They fall down right there on the ground, completely unconscious.
And that is exactly where the story ends. Two men passed out on the floor of a tavern, while the woman who fed them lies dead and uncovered in a dark hut.
Wow. Just silence. It's incredibly heavy.
It is remarkably heavy.
So let's unpack this. We've narrated the events, but what does it all really mean? Why did Premchand write this? He was a man of the people, a progressive writer. Why paint the poor in such an unflattering light?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Many critics were actually furious when this came out. They said Premchand is mocking the poor. He's calling them lazy and heartless. But I think that's a very shallow reading.
Okay, so what's the deeper reading then?
The deeper reading is that Premchand is showing the ultimate result of systemic oppression. He isn't saying poor people are inherently bad. He's saying, look at what this society has done to these men. Poverty hasn't just taken their money, it has taken their humanity. It has stripped them of the ability to love, to grieve, to even care.
So Ghisu and Madhav aren't the villains, they are the products.
Exactly. Think about Gisu's laziness. In the story, he explicitly realizes that the peasants who work hard die of starvation anyway. So his refusal to work is a form of passive resistance. He refuses to participate in a system that constantly exploits him.
It's like a quiet rebellion, a refusal to be a cog in the machine.
Yes. And let's talk about the shroud itself, the title of the story. Kafan.
It's the central symbol of the whole piece.
It is. The shroud represents the absurdity of social norms. As Ghisu points out, society doesn't care if you freeze to death while alive. They won't give you a blanket. But the exact moment you die, they insist on a new cloth to burn.
It's performative morality. The village wants the shroud not for Budhia, but for themselves, to feel like they did the right thing.
Precisely. And Ghisu exposes that hypocrisy entirely. He takes the money meant for the dead cloth and uses it to feed the living body. In a brutal, utilitarian way, he is absolutely right. The food served a purpose. The shroud would have just turned to ash.
But at what cost? The cost is his soul. The cost is his connection to his son, to his daughter-in-law.
That's the true tragedy. They have survived, but they have ceased to be fully human. They have become pythons, as Premchand called them, just stomachs and appetites.
There's also the gender aspect here. Budhia, she is the sacrificial lamb in all of this.
Absolutely. She's the only productive member of the household. She works, she feeds them, she brings order. And how is she repaid? With total neglect. Her death is literally the fuel for their party. It's a harsh commentary on the patriarchy within the structure of poverty. Even the oppressed men oppress the woman.
It leaves us with a very provocative thought. We look at them dancing and say, look at these drunk fools. But are they the delusional ones? Or is the society that values a piece of cloth more than a human life the delusional one?
That is the exact question Premchand leaves us with. Who is truly drunk? The men in the tavern or the world outside?
It's a story that forces you to look in the mirror. It forces you to look at the beggars on the street, the laborers in the fields, and wonder about the complex, dark, human stories behind those eyes.
And it reminds us that literature isn't always about comforting us. Sometimes it's about shaking us awake.
I want to circle back to something we touched on but didn't fully explore. The specific texture of the feast flashback. We breezed past it, but Premchand spends a lot of time there. Why?
That's a great point. Let's reopen that chapter. The flashback to the Thakur's wedding isn't just a menu, it's a window into a vanished world. You have to understand, for Ghisu, time isn't measured in years, it's measured in hunger. That one day, 20 years ago, is the only anchor he has to a feeling of satiety.
Let's read into the details he describes. He mentions puris, made of real ghee. Now, for a modern listener, ghee is just clarified butter. We buy it at the store. But for a Dalit landless laborer in 1916, which would be 20 years prior to the story, real ghee was liquid gold.
Exactly. Usually they would eat dry rotis, or maybe rotis with a little oil if they were incredibly lucky. Often they ate ground grains or chickpeas. But to have deep-fried bread saturated in the fat of the cow, that is the highest caloric density a human can possibly consume. It represents life energy.
And the chutney, raita, 3 types of dry greens. The variety. Ghisu and Madhav probably eat one thing at a time, a potato, a piece of bread. To have a plate with options, that's agency, that's choice.
Choice is the key word there. Poverty completely removes choice. You eat what you find. At the feast, Ghisu says, you ask for something, they give it. You say no, they give it anyway. That abundance where the supply exceeds the demand is the polar opposite of his daily life, where demand always exceeds supply.
And the tactile nature of the kachoris. He describes them as red, round, and fragrant. He can smell them across 2 decades.
It's a profound sensory memory, almost PTSD in reverse. Instead of a traumatic memory intruding, it's a memory of pure pleasure that intrudes to highlight his current trauma. When he tells Madhav this story, he isn't just reminiscing, he's torturing himself and his son. He is painting a picture of a paradise they are permanently barred from.
And Madhav's reaction is so telling. He doesn't say that sounds nice. He gets highly competitive. I would have eaten 50.
It's the braggadocio of the powerless again. Madhav has never seen 50 puris in one place in his entire life. But he needs to assert his dominance, his capacity. I am a man. I can eat like a giant. Even though, in reality, his stomach has probably shrunk so much he'd get violently sick after 10.
It's tragic comedy. 2 skeletons sitting by a fire bragging about imaginary eating contests.
And this connects directly to the end of the story. When they finally do get the food at the liquor shop, notice exactly how they eat. Like lions.
Yes.
They don't savor it. They don't act like connoisseurs. They attack it. It's violent. It's reclaiming their place in the food chain.
Right.
For our, they're the predators, not the prey.
I want to zoom in on another character we mentioned, the Zamindar. The landlord.
A very crucial figure.
We see him for maybe 2 paragraphs, but he represents the entire economic structure of the village. Describe that interaction again. Ghisu weeping on the ground.
So this is a masterclass performance of feudal submission. Ghisu calls himself a slave. Sarkar, Apka Gulamhun. In 1936, the Zamindari system was still very much in full effect. These landlords owned the land, the village, and in many ways, the people.
And the Zamindar hates Ghisu. Why? Is it just because he steals?
It's much more than theft. It's disobedience. In a feudal system, your worth is determined entirely by your utility to the master. Ghisu refuses to be useful. He refuses to be a cog in the machine. When the Zamindar calls for labor, Ghisu hides. That is a direct insult to the Zamindar's authority.
So Ghisu is a bad subject.
He is an ungovernable subject, and that terrifies the powerful. If everyone acted like Ghisu, if everyone just decided, I'd rather starve and sleep than work for you, the Zamindar's power would instantly collapse. So his hatred is deeply political.
But he gives the money anyway.
He gives the money because he is trapped by his own status. Noblesse oblige. The nobility is strictly obligated to be charitable. If he lets a woman rot in his village without a funeral, it looks terrible on him. It suggests he can't maintain order or dharma in his domain.
So Ghisu brilliantly weaponizes the Zamindar's ego against him.
Exactly. That is the brilliance of Ghisu. He knows the rules of the game far better than the players. He knows the Zamindar must give to save face. And he knows once the Zamindar gives, the Budhia, the merchant, must give to stay in the Zamindar's good books.
It's a domino effect of social pressure, entirely triggered by Ghisu.
He's a con artist, really, but a con artist of survival.
Let's talk about the Chamar identity. We mentioned it briefly, but we need to explain it clearly for our global listeners.
Right. Chamar is a caste traditionally associated with leatherwork, tanning, and manual labor. In the rigid hierarchy of the Indian caste system, they were considered untouchable, or Dalit. They were forced to live on the absolute outskirts of the village. They couldn't even draw water from the same wells.
So when the text says the whole village defamed them, it's not just because they were lazy, it's because they were already at the very bottom.
Yes. Their laziness confirmed the biases of the upper castes. The upper castes would look at them and say, see, these people are naturally lazy. They deserve their poverty. Premchand is completely challenging that narrative by showing that their laziness is actually a highly rational response to exploitation.
It's the concept of the lazy native that colonial powers used all the time, right? Oh, they don't want to work. Well, why would they want to work for you for free?
Precisely. If I work all day and get beaten and starve, or I don't work and I get beaten and starve, I might as well save my energy.
Let's move to the liquor shop scene again. There is a specific line that really gave me pause. When they enter, Premchand writes, they entered as if by a predetermined decision.
Determinism. That's a very heavy philosophical concept.
Did they have free will in that moment? Could they have bought the shroud?
That is the core tragedy. I'd argue they did not have free will. The biology of starvation is just too strong. You put 5 rupees in the pocket of a starving man, he is surrounded by the smell of food. His brain chemistry is screaming for calories. The abstract concept of a shroud, a social nicety, simply cannot compete with the biological imperative to survive.
So it wasn't a moral failure, it was a biological inevitability.
In many ways, yes. And that's exactly why Premchand writes it so matter-of-factly. He doesn't say they wickedly decided to sin. He just says they entered, like water flowing downhill. It was the absolute path of least resistance.
In the philosophy section inside the bar, Ghisu says, we are blessing her from our hearts. Is he lying to himself? Or does he truly believe it?
I think in that exact moment, in the warm glow of alcohol, he absolutely believes it. He needs to believe it. Humans are storytelling creatures. We tell ourselves stories to live with our actions. If he admitted, I am eating my daughter-in-law's funeral money because I am a selfish wretch, he would break. So he constructs a new narrative. I am blessing her. My happiness creates her salvation.
It's transactional theology. I eat here, she gets credit there.
It's a direct parody of the Brahminical rituals. You feed the priest to feed the dead ancestors.
Right.
That's the Hindu custom of Shroud. You feed a Brahmin, and the merit goes to your dead father.
Oh, wow. I didn't connect that at all.
Yes. Ghisu is essentially making himself the Brahmin.
Yeah.
He is saying, I am the holy vessel, feed me, and she gets the blessing. He is completely subverting the religious ritual. He is the priest of his own hunger.
That is mind-blowing. He is usurping the role of the holy man.
And why not? He has suffered more than any priest. If suffering makes you holy, Ghisu is a literal saint.
And then there is the beggar interaction. This is the only time in the entire story they interact with someone lower than them.
Is there anyone lower than them?
The beggar. He has no money, no food, not even the cunning to scam the Zamindar. He just stands and stares.
True. And notice the massive power dynamic shift. All their lives, Ghisu and Madhav have looked at others with hungry eyes. Now someone is looking at them with hungry eyes.
It intoxicates them more than the wine itself.
It does. Power is a hell of a drug. For 5 minutes, Madhav gets to play the Sakur. He gets to be the benevolent lord throwing crumbs to the peasant. It restores his dignity. He feels expansive. Take it. Eat.
But it's so fleeting.
It's incredibly fleeting. Once the food is gone, the illusion will vanish. But for that brief moment, they are on top of the world.
Let's discuss the ending again. The song, Thagni, cheater or temptress? Who is the Thagni?
There are multiple interpretations of this. One is that life itself is the Thagni. Life flashes its eyes at you, tempts you with hopes of food, of love, of happiness. But in the end, it cheats you. It leaves you with nothing.
What's another interpretation?
Maya. Illusion. The world is just an illusion. We worry about shrouds, about castes, about reputation, but it's all a cheat. In the end, we all fall down unconscious.
Or maybe the Thagni is Budhia.
That's interesting. How so?
She came into their lives, flashed her eyes, gave them a taste of civilization, and then cheated them by donging and leaving them alone again.
That's a very valid reading from their extremely warped perspective. They feel abandoned. They feel victimized by her death. How dare she die and leave us hungry?
It's so unbelievably narcissistic.
Poverty breeds narcissism. When you are fighting daily for basic survival, you become the center of your own universe. You literally can't afford empathy. Empathy is a luxury for people with full fridges.
That is a harsh truth. Empathy is a luxury.
It is. We like to think empathy is innate. But look at Kafan. Premchand argues that material conditions strictly dictate moral character. If you treat men like animals for 60 years, don't be surprised when they bite.
I want to touch on the visuals one last time. The darkness. The story starts in the dark and ends in the dark.
The darkness is almost a character itself. The Antera. It represents ignorance, it represents the lack of consciousness, and it heavily represents the social invisibility of the Dalits. They live permanently in the shadows of the village.
The only light in the story is fire. The bonfire in part 1. The kitchen fires of the wedding feast. And the metaphorical fire of the cremation that never happens.
And the fire of the alcohol in their blood.
Right. Fire consumes, just like their hunger consumes.
You know, there's a famous critique of this story by Dalit scholars. Some argue that Premchand, being an upper caste writer, he was Kayasta, couldn't truly understand the Chamar experience. They argue he made them too negative, too villainous, without showing the love or solidarity that also exists in poor communities.
That's a really fair point. Communities often bond because of poverty, but here, the bond is completely broken.
I think Premchand deliberately broke the bond to make a point. If he showed them loving each other and weeping and holding hands, it would be a tragedy, sure, but it would be a noble tragedy. The reader would cry and feel good about their own pity.
Ah, I see. By making them unlikable, he denies the reader the satisfaction of easy pity.
Exactly. He slaps the reader right in the face. He says, don't pity them, be horrified by what created them. He doesn't want your tears, he wants your shock. He wants you to question the entire system. If they were noble savages, we could romanticize them. Oh, look how poor but happy and loving they are. No, they are poor and miserable and broken. Fix it.
That makes Kafan a much more radical text. It refuses to let the reader off the hook.
It is absolutely radical. It's one of the very first modernist texts in Indian literature. It moves away from moralizing, telling you what is good and bad, to revealing, showing you the ugly truth.
And the dialogue style, it's very colloquial.
Yes, the source text uses a mix of Hindi and Urdu, specifically the rural dialect. It's earthy, it's rough. When Ghisu speaks, he doesn't sound like a professor. He sounds like a man who has smoked too much ganja and screamed at way too many landlords.
Chutney, Rolita, Teen Tarak Isukasag, the rhythm of that list. It's poetry of the stomach.
It truly is.
So as we close this extended analysis, I want to ask you, is there any hope in this story? Is there a silver lining anywhere?
That's hard, honestly. No, there is no traditional hope. Budhi is dead. The baby is dead. The money is gone. Tomorrow, they will wake up with a massive hangover, hungry again, and now the whole village will be asking about the shroud.
It's going to be a bad morning.
A terrible morning. But if there is hope, it lies outside the text. It lies in the fact that this story was written at all. It lies in the fact that in 1936, a writer forced society to look at Ghisu and Madhav. The hope is in the awareness it creates.
The hope is us talking about it 90 years later.
Exactly. We are acknowledging their humanity, even if it's a deeply broken humanity.
And that's exactly why Simplified Summary exists, to keep these stories alive, to make sure we don't look away.
Right.
Before we sign off for real this time, I want to remind our listeners about the mission of this deep dive. We wanted to give you the full picture, Not just the plot summary, not just they bought booze, but the why, the how, the smell of the potatoes, the taste of the ghee, the freezing cold of the night.
We really hope we achieve that.
I think we did. This has been a heavy journey, but a deeply necessary one. Munshi Premchand's Kafan, a story about a shroud that was never bought for a woman who frankly deserved the world.
A tragedy in 3 parts.
Absolutely. Well, I think we have thoroughly unpacked Kafan. We've eaten the hot potatoes, we've begged from the Zamindar, and we've danced in the liquor shop. If you found this deep dive valuable, if it helped you understand this masterpiece in a way that a textbook never could, please, do us a huge favor.
Head over to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel.
Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment telling us what story we should cover next. Your support helps us keep these deep dives coming. And share it. Share it with a student who's struggling with Hindi literature or a friend who just loves dark philosophical stories.
Knowledge is always best when shared.
Thank you so much for listening. Keep reading, keep thinking, and whatever you do, don't let the fire go out.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you in the next deep dive.